Thank you for attending tonight's webinar. So tonight we're going to be discussing buy and hold property management. So I want to say hello to you guys and also hello to our Facebook audience as well. So yes, let's see here. So we're going to go through a few housekeeping real quick. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat and make sure to specify whether it's for Nhan or our special guest speaker, Mr. John Malatesta. And we'll get to those. We'll have a section near the end and we'll get to those in the order that they were received. And this also goes for Facebook as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Allow me to introduce the founder of Fortune Homes, Mr. Nhan Lam. Nhan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Nicholas. Thank you very much for a warm welcome. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on September 9th for our webinar for buying, hold, and property management. Now, we do this every single month, and we have a different topic every single month to share with you. So that way, everyone can see the entire facet, entire life cycle of real estate investing. And today is one of my favorite topics because this talks about really long-term wealth building. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Nhan, and I started real estate investing roughly 10 years ago, and I started on a part-time basis while working full-time on my job as an engineer for the federal government. And within 2.5 years, was able to build my business on a part-time basis to replace my full-time job. And now we're doing real estate full-time. And God, it's been a very true blessing because I have myself and 5 kids, and now with COVID going on, we've been blessed to be able to take care of our kids with all this virtual learning stuff for school and a lot of different things without having to be able to deal with going to the office or dealing with a boss that forces you to go to the office just to make money for your family. So real estate has been a true blessing, and it can be for others as well. But definitely, guys, real estate in all facets. And when you drive around, when you walk around, drive around, when you're out and about, grocery shopping, having dinner, having some recreational time with your family, there's real estate everywhere. And most people are unaware of opportunities out there because they're just uneducated and don't see a knack for opportunity when it's right there in front of their lap. So what we're going to do tonight is specifically talk about buying, hold, and rental properties and really how to hone in on your skills to be able to smell an opportunity right there once you see it, okay? So let's go through these slides real quick on buy and hold. Now, first of all, why do we want to buy and hold? Buy and hold, pretty much you buy the property, you rent it out, you hold it for long-term wealth. Now, historically, over time, over the period of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, real estate has had a history of increasing in value. So yes, it does create long-term wealth because the demand for real estate will always increase because our population will always increase, and there's no sign of it going down anytime soon, and not only in the United States, but definitely worldwide. Okay. Also, because real estate has a structure and a building, the materials that goes into that building can be depreciated on your tax returns, and now you have tax advantages to be able to incentivize landlords to be able to do more of what they do. The federal government incentivizes certain activity in the economy, and this includes doing rental properties and providing housing for those out there who don't have it. Also, why should you do it? Cash flow. You see, if you don't have regular cash flow on a monthly basis, then what's going to happen is that your household is not going to go very well, okay? Now, yes, a nice lump sum every now and then is also nice as well with when you do fix and flip or you do wholesaling, but consistent cash flow that you can count on every single month is the key to stabilization in your household, all right? In addition to that, possible appreciation. Now, why did I have this last here? Because appreciation may happen, it may not happen, all right? And we all remember the Great Recession, 2008, when everything recessed and the value of properties went down for almost 2 or 3 years before it started going back up again. So appreciation is nice to have, but don't count on it. If you only count on appreciation at what people did in the early to mid 2000s, where they buy a house, did nothing to it, and later on flip it for a quick dollar, that is not real estate investing. That's gambling, all right? And in gambling, you can win, you can lose. It does not take much intelligence to buy a house, see it go up, and then sell it. Does not require much intelligence, okay? But real estate investing is a true business which requires critical thinking and intelligence to be able to be successful and have it long-term and sustaining for you. So appreciation is nice, but don't count it, okay? Treat it as a bonus and not treat it as the main thing you're looking for when you're buying property, all right? So as a potential landlord, so maybe you own a rental property or maybe multiple rental properties now, or maybe you don't own any rental properties and looking to invest as a landlord. If that's the case, you want to set a criteria that you are comfortable with, all right? And what I mean by that is that if you're only comfortable buying houses that's local to you, that's within a 30-minute radius of where your house is, that's your criteria. Start there. But you got to develop a criteria for what you're buying and what you're looking for before you go out there, so that way you don't break that rule of thumb. So for example, if you go to the store and you set your mind on buying milk, and then you get distracted and go down to the bread aisle and start buying chips and Doritos and bread and all this other stuff without buying before you buy the milk, you're being distracted. You're now off mission of what you're trying to do. So make sure you know what you want to buy and what locations you want to buy. So for example, if one of your criteria is location, have that as your criteria. Say, okay, I'm going to circle this zip code right here or this jurisdiction right here, and I'm going to focus right there. Or maybe a so many mile radius of your house. Whatever it may be, you can choose that, okay? And once you get experience enough, that location bubble may change. It may be bigger. It may be going to multi-state or across the entire country. So it all depends on your risk tolerance and your knowledge of specific marketplaces when you're buying rental property. Also, price point. All right, what number are you comfortable with? Now, I personally think that price point shouldn't be a factor because you can always raise the money if the deal is good. If the deal is not good, then you have trouble raising the money. However, if this is your first deal and you're not comfortable buying an expensive property, then you want to go ahead and do something and put a price point in there that you feel comfortable with. See, what I have learned, that if you get too scared to act, you end up doing nothing. So if you set a price point where you are not afraid of, then most likely than not, you will take action and get results. So what price points are you targeting? Is it going to be under 300,000, under 200,000, under 150, under 100,000? What is your price point? Once you have that criteria, write it down and follow that. Okay. Also, are you looking for property just to have a tenant pay off the mortgage so that way you can have equity growth where they are paying for the interest and the principal balance of your mortgage on a monthly basis? Or are you really looking for cash flow? Do you really want cash flow, or are you just trying to break even every month? What is your criteria? All right. For me, I got to have cash flow. If it's not cash flowing, I probably don't want it because it's going to be a waste of time for me. Also, line of sight. What I mean by that is when you buy the property, the moment you walk out of the front door, what do you see? Is it an eyesore, or is it attractable for families moving in as tenants? When you walk out of the door and you see an industrial complex across the street, is that attractive to tenant? Probably not. If you go across the street and you see if you go out the front door and you actually see a beautiful park or beautiful, near schools or near libraries for your family, is that attractable? And the answer is yes. So what kind of line of sight and what kind of things are you going to see once you walk out of the front door, and is it going to be an eyesore for tenants or not? Because if it's an eyesore, you're probably going to have less people looking at it as a tenant. Whereas if it's very attractive and looks very nice in a very nice community, nice neighborhood, and it's great for families, then you're more likely than not going to have a lot of people applying as a tenant to try and rent that location. So line of sight, in my opinion, is also very important when it comes to rental properties. All right. Also, your criteria, tenant quality. Are you looking for people who have good credit, average credit, low credit? All right. For me personally, I don't really like people with high credit because they feel entitled. All right. However, for people who may have low to average credit, they're trying to rebuild their status and they may want to pay a higher security deposit, but they're on time with their rent because they have something to prove. All right. They don't want to lose a place to live. If they lose a place to live, then it's going to be hard for them to find another place to live because they have poor credit. Okay. So whatever that situation is, you want to have a good property manager understand these different things when it comes to tenant quality. And that way they can advise you on which tenant to choose. So that way it doesn't become a headache for you. Okay. Now, when it comes to our Fortune Homes buying criteria, we must cash flow positive. All right. So when we buy it to where we have it rent ready and have it have it priced at a market rent for that neighborhood, then whatever that rent may be and whatever our expense should be on a monthly basis, we want the income to be more than the monthly expenses, including the debt service or the mortgage. It must cash flow positive. It cannot be negative, it cannot break even, and it cannot be a headache. It must be positive, and that's our personal criteria, all right? Also, we want to get it for free eventually, okay? And what I mean by that is absolutely none of your personal money in. If you have the ability to do this, then guess what? You can do as many deals as you want, and you will not be constrained by your personal resources or the resources of your network, okay? Now, let's go through an example, all right? Here's an example of a property we did in Woodbridge, Virginia. Here's the actual address, and we purchased it roughly 6 years ago, right? September 2014, exactly 6 years from this month. All right, and so here's the situation here, and I want you guys to take a look at this situation and analyze what you would do when you talk to a seller like this. Here's the situation. The seller, who lived locally in Woodbridge, he managed the property himself. He was a do-it-yourself type person, DIY. He fixed the property himself. He collected the rent himself. In fact, every Thanksgiving, he gave a turkey to his tenants. That's the kind of person he was. He was very hands-on and did not trust any property manager to be able to do that kind of work. He didn't feel that anyone could do it better than him, which is why he did it all himself. Now, what his thinking was that the home is worth more than it is. Okay, at most seller, I'm telling you, 99% of the time, when you talk to a homeowner or a seller trying to sell the property, they're going to give you a price tag that it's going to be more than what it's actually worth, because they're living in la-la land most of the time, and they're in denial over the condition or the situation of the property. And so what happens is that they always want more than what we're willing to pay for. But it's up to you to build that relationship, build that rapport, build that trust, get them to like you, have some common ground to where they can respect what kind of offer you're going to give them and justify why it's the price it is, because you're in business to make a profit and you're not in business to take a loss. You have an obligation to make sure your business is successful. All right. Now, the other situation is that eventually he did have a bad tenant, and the tenant was evicted. And once he was evicted, the condition of the property was in horrible shape. I mean, when you walk in, the floors were very sticky. I mean, there's damage to the drywall everywhere. There were paint peeling. The doors were off all the hinges, and the appliances just wasn't working properly. There's cockroaches everywhere. Just not very suitable for a new tenant to move in. And that was a lot of work. And this gentleman was getting much older. As a do-it-yourself person, he probably won't want to do that all himself. Also, because he has a mentality of doing himself, he does not want to sell it on the open market and have to pay a real estate agent 6%. He would rather save the 6% and work directly with people like me or like you to be able to get a deal and save the 6% and putting that in his pocket, because if you listen on the open market, he as a seller will be paying the 6%. All right. Now, at the time of this purchase, the 2014 tax assessed value for this property was $173,000. It was currently 3-bedroom and 1.5 bath. The renovation estimate for this house using rental grade materials was $23,000, which would turn it into a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So we would add an additional additional bathroom in the basement, so that way our rent would be much higher because of that additional bathroom. Okay. And once the renovation was done, the appraiser came out and said that the worth of the house with this new renovation would be $215,000. Now, I'm going to do something a little different tonight and get you guys to participate in a chat tool. Based on this information right here, I want to give everyone in the audience 30 seconds on how much you think we should pay for this property. Once again, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds and typing in a chat tool. And based on this information right here, how much we should pay for this property. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds starting right now. All right, and this is not double jeopardy or anything, but that's one of the favorite things when it comes to things like this. All right, so let's go through the numbers we have here. We have looks like Candias is 125,000. All right, we have Emily at 134,000. We have Rahu at 196,000. Okay, we got John Malatesta, our guest speaker, at 121,000. That's a very specific number. All right, John Dow, 140,000. Jennifer Bond, 150. Kurt Morton, 125. We got 121 for Carlos, 165 for Joey Thomas. We have a Maria at 19,000. I'm assuming that's 190,000, not 19,000. Okay. But hey, if it was 19,000, it would be a great deal, right? But unfortunately, it was not 19,000. And all you guys have great numbers, right? But you guys are analyzing the property most likely because based on the ARV and based on the actual tax assessed value and what's fair for the seller. Well, guess what? Our initial offer was $100,000, and we eventually got it agreed for $115,000. Now, is that a good deal? And the answer is what? Absolutely. It was a great deal. So you think about it, at $115,000, we put $23,000 in. We add a little bit of money for closing costs. You know, we're in there for roughly 140 and some change. All right. So if you use the 1% rule, all right, which we use all the time, the rent rates in this marketplace for this house was $1,600 per month, which means at the 1% rule, if you take $1,600 per month and divide by 1%, the target purchase price, all in with acquisition and renovation, was $160,000. So if we're going to go in with renovation, acquisition, closing costs, and holding costs at 140 and some change, we're in great shape. Okay, so $115,000 was the purchase price there. Now, if it was $115,000, would you buy it? And the answer should be yes, absolutely. Okay. Now let's take a look at the numbers. Purchase price $115,000, closing costs $1,500, holding costs for 3 months, which includes the time for renovation, all right, and also the time we put it on the market for rent. So we accounted for 3 months for including the renovation and also putting on the market for rent and getting a tenant moved in there. So most likely in this situation, the renovation was probably about maybe 7 to 8 weeks, and then we spent another 4 to 5 weeks finding a tenant and then placing them into the actual place. The renovation cost about $23,000. So as you mentioned, total cost all in is $143,500. Now, we got a new loan. Once the tenant was placed in, we had a ratified lease. We submitted that lease to our lender and got this thing refinanced and paid out all of our private lenders and private investors and got a new loan of $145,000. The refinance cost was roughly $1,500, which includes the origination points, the doc fees, the taxes, the recordation, and all that nice stuff. And you net out $143,500. Now, what does that mean? We put in $143,500. We got out $143,500. What does that mean? No money in the deal from the investor. Did you get the property for free? The answer is yes. And is it cash flowing positively? Well, let's take a look. All right. Well, our initial rent for the property was $1,675 per month. We had an HOA, we had taxes, we had insurance. We also paid our property manager, and we set aside money for repairs and maintenance, and also for vacancy. So if you have a 1-year lease, then generally you want to have a 2-week vacancy built in there while you're finding for a new tenant. Okay, when there's vacancy, that means you're not collecting any rent, and the money that you save for a vacancy allows you to account for the time when you're not collecting rent. Okay, and the debt service for that $145,000 mortgage was $845 per month. It was a commercial mortgage, and it was also a 25-year amortization, which means that I'm paying more principal off quicker. In addition to that, it is not on my credit report because it was a commercial mortgage that's loaned to my LLC as a borrower and not loaned to me personally as Nhan Lam. You see, it was loaned to me personally. It's going to show up on my personal credit report. And when it shows up there, it's going to affect my debt to income ratio. In addition to that, the more mortgages I have on my credit report, the more likely I'll be capped off. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac only caps you off at 10 mortgages for rental properties. All right. Now, if you have a commercial mortgage, it never shows up on your credit report, which means you can have as many rental properties as you want. When you do the math here, you have a total cash flow of $249 per month. With the depreciation of property, saving money in taxes, $200 a month. Total cash flow, $449 per month. Is your cash flowing positively? The answer is yes. Does it meet my other criteria? The answer is yes. So this was a slam dunk deal and very exciting, okay? In addition to that, with a new loan, $145,000, new property value, $215,000, we had an instant equity just like that at $70,000, increasing your net worth just like that instantly through real estate, okay? Here's another example. There was purchased actually the same month, okay? September must be a good month for buying rental properties, okay? It was purchased a few years ago, same situation where the landlord was very burnt out. It's a different landlord. Now, the tax assessed value here was $214,000, 3-bedroom and 2-bath. Now, this situation is a little bit different. The ARV was $250,000. The as-is value, if you buy it as is without any renovation, it was $200,000. All right. So let's take a look real quick. You know, the situation is that The seller wanted to sell this property to us, what we call turnkey, which means the tenant has been there for a very long time, but they're paying under market rents, which is okay. If we don't have to evict them or move them out, I don't care about having the tenant stay there without any kind of vacancy time, because if we have a vacancy time, we're going to lose money on the actual rents and duration of the month. And then we're also going to be losing time because we're probably going to have to go in and do renovations to the property. So I'd rather keep that tenant in there, have them pay $1,600 per month. And with this $1,600 per month, we would cash flow positively. We purchased it for $150,000. The loan here was 80% loan, $120,000. In addition to that, we were able to get a 25% seller house financing, which is $37,500. All right. So when you do all the math here at settlement, just for buying this property, we got $1,800 back at closing. And I mean, literally, they had to give us money, even though we did not want it, just to buy the property. In order to purchase the property, we had to accept the money. All right. So $1,800 cash back. And with the tenants in place already, we're also cash flowing over $400 per month just by doing a turnkey situation here. So now that's the actual deal of buying the property, structuring the property to where you have no money in, okay, as an investor. Now, once you bought it and once you actually have a tenant in place, okay, I'm sorry, this one also has an instant equity of $80,000, okay, so that was really exciting. Now, once we have a tenant in place, the next thing you want to do is you want to be on cruise control. You want your property to be on autopilot. You want a property management company that can collect the rent, handle maintenance calls, place new tenants as needed, and deal with evictions and legal problems if there are any when it comes to actually dealing with the tenants. Why? Not because you are lazy, but because you want to focus your time on not managing your existing portfolio, but instead building your portfolio to add new properties and new investments into your asset column of real estate. So I cannot think of a better person to be able to present property management than the person I've been working with since the beginning of all of our rental properties. He manages all of our rental properties. Mr. John Malatesta, you on, sir? Mr. John Malatesta, are you on? Might want to hit the unmute button, sir. Mr. John Malatesta, are you there? Nicholas? Oh, there you are.
There we go. Sorry, it took me a second to figure that out.
Okay, no problem. I'll turn the floor over to you to talk about property management and what you do for us as landlords, okay?
Absolutely. Pleasure. So thank you very much, Nhan. Nhan asked me to do a little bit of a presentation of what a property manager can do for you as a real estate investor. Either with 1, 2, or 10 properties, it really doesn't matter. It's what we can do for you and what we should do for you as well. So again, my name is John. I am the owner of PMI Fairfax, residential property management company based in Northern Virginia. But this is a little bit of presentation for you guys. So in general, who needs a property management company and who does not? So you might not need a property management company. I like to start off with, because a lot of times learning the ropes, figuring out it on your own with 1 property, maybe 2, is a good idea. That way you can kind of have a better understanding of what a property manager does on a day-to-day basis. Also, if you own a duplex or some sort of triplex, quadplex, and live in one of the units and rent out the others, you're right there, so that's okay to take care of the unit itself. If you're renting out a basement room, bedroom, full basement or something like that, again, you're probably not going to need a property management company for those sort of situations. The ones that should use a property management company are anybody that owns 1 or more homes, again, depending on your criteria. If you are a distance away from the homes, 20, 30, 45 minutes, depends on your criteria. Also, if you want to treat it right off the bat like a business, and I do recommend that, treating it like a business. Expect the expenses right away, handle the expenses right away. That way there's no shock to the system when you have 10 properties, let's say. If you want to treat it like a business, hire a professional. We will definitely take care of it for you. The other criteria is people with big hearts. I can be a really nice guy, don't get me wrong, as a property manager, but I can also be a really mean person as a property manager when it comes to enforcement of the lease. So if you have a big heart and you can listen to the sob stories and can relate to those sort of sob stories, definitely turn it over to a property manager. That way you have a third degree of separation. Really good for you. There's a nice little graphic of the to-do list as far as a property manager versus doing it on your own. Really, a property manager should handle A to Z for you. If they don't handle A to Z, they're not a full service property manager. Probably look into getting a full service property manager that will handle A to Z. Leasing, marketing, maintenance, drafting of leases, inspections, regular maintenance, addendums, anything that might come into the life of a rental, your property management company should handle that for you. There should always be an open flow of communication between you and the property management company, but they should really be the main point of contact for you. You shouldn't be getting the 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls. You shouldn't be getting the leaky toilet phone calls. The property management company should. And that allows you to really focus in on what is your true reason for being an investor, and that's to find new properties and to rent them. And maybe renovate them, sell them, but sure, renovate them and rent them as well. As an investor, you're looking to maximize your effort. Your effort is not in fixing the leaky toilet. Your effort is into managing rent, managing the manager, if you will. What we do on a day-to-day, again, rent collection, rent assessments, protecting your investment, marketing, things of that nature. These are all part of a full service management company that we really do take care of for you. A to Z, again, kind of breaks down a little bit more detailed. We should market on the MLS, Zillow, Trulia, Rent Range. There's even a new platform called Zumper, which is kind of an aggregator. Craigslist. They should market the property completely for you. Photos, answer all the questions about the property, set up showings, show the property, accept the applications, process said applications, and then make recommendations based upon your specific criteria and the management's experience. If you say, I only want tenants with 700 in credit and up, that's fine. That's your rules. Let's follow your rules. If you say, I want tenants with 600 in credit up, again, that's fine. We follow your rules. Based upon our experience and your recommendations, we'll definitely work with you on finding a qualified tenant. The paperwork. Leases can be tricky from time to time. They shouldn't be too much in Virginia, but you should really take a little bit of a pause and make sure you understand the lease that you are signing as the landlord and the tenant signing as the tenant, because there are certain obligations that you have as a landlord per the lease. Understand that. Move-ins, move-out, and regular inspections will also be handled in the A to Z, so to speak, of a property manager. Day to day, again, it's more everyday sort of things. Rent collection, that's probably the first and foremost on your mind. Schedule maintenance such as air filters, regular inspections, emergency maintenance after hours. You, like I said before, you don't want to be getting the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning about a leaking toilet. Let us handle, or another property management company handle that for you. Recording your taxes and expenses. One of the things a lot of the do-it-yourself property management owners forget is to record all their expenses. So they show a lot of income on rent, but then they forget to show a lot of expenses on repairs and maintenance and regular scheduled things. And so you lose out on that. We don't miss that. A property management company will record that on a day-to-day basis, and you will have that 100% collected for you and reported for you. And also, at the end of the day, move-outs. Move-ins, move-outs have been, within the last 6 to 8 months, a bit of a contingency, or well, a bit of an issue, for lack of a better term, with regards to landlords. A couple landlords have been hit because they didn't do a proper move-in nor a proper move-out. A management company should do both of those for you. You know the condition of the property when you moved in, you know, the condition of the property when you moved out. And if there's any difference and discrepancy between those two, obviously that would result in a deduction from the security deposit. Having both of those done professionally and confidently is very important. Important factors to think about. So, as a property management company, we are your client. Sorry, the other way around. You are our client. We have a responsibility to you, but we also have to keep the tenants happy because ultimately speaking, they are the ones that pay the rent. Keeping that open line of communications between the tenant and the landlord is super important. 90 to 95% of a property management company duties is communications, plain and simple. Keeping that open line of communications between vendors, tenants, and other things of that nature, that's what we really, really focus on. And that's what a property management company should focus on for you. We should respond quickly when necessary. If it's a water leak or a gas leak, that should be within an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. Let's give us a little bit of leeway. But those sort of things should be responded to very, very quickly. Something like, hey, the light bulb in the bathroom is burnt out. Okay, that's not a super huge issue to address immediately, but we should still be on top of that. Keeping everybody in the loop. One of the other issues that we've encountered is, as far as property management on a national level goes, is property managers will take care of the properties, but then they'll forget to inform the landlords, hey, we fixed A, B, and C because they were broken. It's just a communications breakdown, and keeping everybody in the loop, everybody on the same page is very important. So those are things you should look out for. Excuse me, a little bit in the chest. If they do this, the tenants will stay longer. You will have less turnover, less vacancy, which will make you more profitable in the long run as far as a landlord. 95% of the people ask us right away, what are the costs? In general, in Northern Virginia, somewhat of DC and Maryland, but we focus mainly on more Northern Virginia, you'll have a couple fees. The leasing fee is pretty universal. It'll be half a month's rent, 50%, or a full month's rent of the collector rent. That's a fee assessed to you every single time a tenant is found for you. Management fee will be 8 to 10% of the collected rent. Watch out for maintenance fees, inspection fees, and other little fees. There's a couple different philosophies of property management. We personally are full service, so full disclosure, 8% collected rent. That's really it. We don't charge for maintenance. We don't charge for emergency call-outs. We don't charge for anything of that nature. We don't mark up repairs. Other property management companies will occasionally do that, where they have, let's just say, $149 for management fee, flat fee, but then every other service they charge, they'll charge, $10, $15, $20, $25 per month for each one of those additional services. Just be aware of the various fees when you're scouting for a property management company. Again, we listed our standard fees for everybody to review. But if anytime you have any questions, definitely feel free to call me. That is our office line. If nobody answers at the office, it bounces directly to my personal cell phone. I will answer it. You can obviously email us at any time and send us an email with any questions, big, small, whatever it might be. We spend probably half our day answering questions with landlords. It's more than our pleasure to answer those sort of questions. So if you have any questions at all, give us a call. If you have a question about a lease, rental application, anything at all, feel free to give us a call. We're here to help the group. It's a great group to be in. Nhan runs a great organization and group, so definitely sign up for all the emails, and you'll be more than happy and satisfied with the organization.
All right. Well, thank you, John, very much for your insight there, and I really appreciate that. And I tell you guys, John has been with us for so long, and we just want to keep him. is because, I mean, the loyalty, you give loyalty to someone who looks out for you during good times and bad times. And that's why my tips I give you guys when you build your team is that, not all deals are going to go ideally the way you want it to. Sometimes they go better, sometimes they go well, they as planned, and sometimes they just don't go as planned. And when they don't go as planned, not if, but when. Because sometimes, I think it's all, rules, it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. Sometimes you just get a tough spot and something unexpected happens. There would be a tenant moves in and starts tearing up the place, or maybe they're not paying rent and you can't evict them because of what's going on with the coronavirus under the CARES Act or whatever. So whatever the situation may be, you want a team member who's going to look out for you during good times and bad times. And John Malatesta is definitely one of those people who look out for you during all times. Okay, so thank you, John, for the wonderful presentation. So what I'm going to do now is Nicholas, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and go through the question section now, and you can go ahead and go through that process before we go to the next question, okay? Yes.
Okay, your mic kind of sounded a little muffled up right there. Could you test that again real quick?
Yes. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start questions now. This question is from Rahul. I'm gonna assume that this is for either you or John. It says, why would the seller below then tax assessed value?
Okay, now can you hear me clearly?
Yes, hello?
Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so the question was, why would the seller sell below tax assessed value? And that's a very good question. And that's your comes to your negotiating skills, okay? And people will sell property to you at a discount if they're truly motivated. Now, tax assessed value is not equal to fair market value. The reason why there's a tax assessed value is for the local city or county to be able to use a number to collect real estate taxes based on the rate that the county or city has set for the year. All right, so the tax assessed value is 175. That doesn't mean the property is worth 175. It could be worth more, it could be worth less, it could be worth around there. All right, but the property condition was so poor, then there was so much work to be done, and the seller wanted to work with someone who did not need to wait for a month or 45 days to get a mortgage. They wanted someone who had access to cash or access to a private lender that's equivalent to cash and does not need to do a home inspection, does not need to do an appraisal, does not need to do a financing contingency, does not, they're literally buying the property as is, and whatever defects are known or unknown to the property, the seller is off the hook and there's no liability whatsoever. So in order to get that off the hook with no liability, you'll need to have an investor like us or like you to be able to buy the house for cash and as is. And in order to do that, you got to pay a discount. That's where you get the good deals from. And that's how real money and real estate is made, is by knowing these kind of, this kind of information to be able to negotiate great deals and identifying that motivation and talking to them. You remember originally this seller wanted a lot more than 115. I mean, they wanted something above tax assessed value. And they were in la land. There's no way the numbers will work if we bought anywhere near tax assessed value. All right, we will lose money every month. It would not cash flow positively, and we will not have instant equity of $70,000 for that particular deal. And there's a lot of other issues that just wouldn't make it work for us. Okay, so it's got to be a win-win situation. And the way I communicate with this particular seller was that he was former military. And he was very blunt, very rude. He could be very rude and very egotistic. And I think it was because I was the only person who can deal with him, because there were other buyers who talked to him, and most likely they couldn't deal with his personality. And the fact that I was able to build that bridge and that rapport and that relationship with him, he respected where I came from. And eventually there was a trust relationship to where we agreed on a particular deal. Okay, so again, it all has to do with the situation, and you want to negotiate a number that works for you. All right, if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to give the number that the seller wants, because if it doesn't work for you, it's not going to make sense for you, and you have an obligation to get the best deal possible for your business. Okay, so hopefully that helps out.
Okay, and Rahu also asks, so what is the basis of us ascertaining the right fair offer price?
Okay, so I alluded to it a little bit earlier. If you're going to do a quick rule of thumb, like on the fly without any kind of deep analysis, what I call the initial sniff test, you can use the 1% rule. And what I mean by that is that if you're trying to get in acquisition, including renovation, of $150,000, which includes everything: renovation, acquisition, closing costs, and holding costs. All right. If you're in for $150,000, then the market rent needs to be 1% of that price, which is $1,500 a month or more. If you're in that ballpark of 1%, then you potentially have a deal. If you're nowhere near that, then it does not pass the initial sniff test. And I'm not going to spend more time investigating that, because now it's just going to waste money, because it's not going to, most likely won't be a good deal for me that's going to work for my business. Okay. So the initial sniff test of 1% helps out a lot. And once it passes that sniff test, you can do a more deeper dive analysis on where the numbers lie based on the situation, the condition, the property, the renovation needed, and so forth. Okay.
Okay, and this next question is from Mr. John Dow. Not being able to evict a tenant right now is kind of scary when I start looking at purchasing rental property. What are your thoughts on a moratorium on eviction, on this moratorium for evictions?
Okay, so that sounds like a question for John.
Yeah, I just turned on my mic. You guys should be able to hear me good. Let me go ahead and turn on my camera.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Perfect. So yes, there is a current moratorium on evictions, especially in Virginia, for two main reasons. One, there is a presidential executive order staying evictions. However, there is a memorandum that the tenant has to sign and agree to with penalty of perjury if they have falsified any data on the memorandum. A couple key points is they have to be at risk of contracting COVID due to the eviction. They have to make a certain amount less than I think it's 99,000 per applicant. They also have to have tried every possible way to gather governmental support. There's about 5 or 6 key items on the memorandum that they have to attest to. Every attorney that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to about 5 or 6 attorneys, both Virginia and national level, said that this will fail ultimately. The executive order is invalid, ultimately speaking. It just comes down to the fact of who wants to try first, who wants to win. So we do have one case that is moving forward in our portfolio, and we will pursue forward. The executive order will probably not work because of a few different key factors, and I'm happy to talk to you offline about those key factors, because it's about a half-hour discussion, and I don't want to take up that much time. But there's a bunch of key factors that make the executive order not really valid evictions. But ultimately speaking, the executive order does run until the end of the year, or before then if they rescind the executive order. Now, if you own the home, Fannie, Freddie, or any other government-backed entity, that's where you need to be careful. If you own it with a conventional loan, outright, or with private financing, there are basically no protections. So if you own it, let's say you've got a hard money loan, it's still ongoing for the next 6 months, the tenants are not covered. You can still evict. One of the big things that everybody also forgets, this is primarily on residential. Commercial loans, if you have a commercial loan, if you through an LLC or an incorporated company, not applicable. 100% not applicable. So it's very important that you understand the differences. And again, send me an email, send me a text, whatever works best for you guys, as far as let's talk through those sort of protections.
And if I may add, also as from an investor standpoint, if the question was, it's kind of scary right now, you gotta ask yourself, does that mean that the rest of the people out there in the world are scared as well to buy rental properties? If so, that means there's opportunity. Okay, remember, you always go against the grain from the masses. Whatever the masses do, you probably want to do the complete opposite. And you want to control your emotions when it comes to investing, because without controlling your emotions, you follow the pack. And generally, the pack and the herd is running in the wrong direction. Okay, and that's why most of the herd is either middle class or lower class, and only 1% is in the upper class. So you want to go ahead and just discipline that emotion Ask yourself why you're feeling this way, and is that emotion justified? If so, let's respond to it accordingly. Is there truly an opportunity based on that emotion, or is that fear justified? Okay, as an investor. Now, if you are worried about collecting the rent, hey, that's okay. You take a look at the person. What's in it for them? Are they really wanting a place to live and being there long term? If so, that might be a good tenant. And also, if you one of your criteria may be that you demand a higher security deposit, that will make you feel safer as well. So if you want a higher security deposit, putting a new tenant in, and if there's something that happens, that security deposit can cover you all the way to the end of the year. That should make you and you put you in a very safe position as a landlord. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you can adjust based on the changing marketplace. So if the moratorium lasts for the rest of the year, you can, and a new tenant moves in, like our last time we just moved in. Usually our standard security deposit is 1 month. We ask for more than 1 month in this particular tenant because of what's going on. So if you want to ask for a security deposit all the way through the end of the year, hey, if they're motivated enough to move in and you're giving them below market rent and they're giving you a higher security deposit, why not? If that makes you feel safe, you can go for that. Okay, so there's a lot of ways and so many different options for you to mitigate that risk by adjusting key factors. Okay.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, and this last question is from Mrs. Emily Schaefer. She asks, there's another question from John, but I'll come back to that. Emily asks, are there legal ramifications to landlords that are not available to answer phone calls 24/7, including temporary unavailability from several hours up to 2 days? Does that necessitate a property manager?
So it will depend upon the issue that the tenant is reporting. In Virginia, there is a clause in the Virginia Landlord Tenant Act lease that stipulates timeframes of response. So water leak, gas leak, things of that nature, a hole in the roof, those should be answered within the same business day. That would sometimes push you into the realm of property managers because we're here 24/7 and we have after hours. So if it's after 5 or 6, we have after hour services. In general, let's just say the AC goes out. That's a pretty routine thing right about now. In Virginia, AC is considered a luxury, not a life necessity. So there is no direct time frame that you have to respond in, nor fix it in for those items. Other items that might impact the safety and well-being of the tenant, yes, you should respond within 24 hours, but there is no direct time frame in the Virginia code that says you need to respond within this time frame. The exact wording, if I remember right, is reasonable time frame, which gives a little bit of ambiguity to everybody, but typically 24 to 48 hours is what most courts assume is a reasonable time frame. If you don't have a property management company and you get an email, and even if you're at work or doing something or on a family vacation, and they say, hey, the roof collapsed in because a tree fell through it, I would say go ahead and stop doing what you're doing and try to fix that problem as much as you reasonably can. Again, if you don't have a property management company and they say, hey, we lost our HVAC system, it's not working, it's really hot, go ahead and send out an email to anybody that you might know that works on HVAC systems saying, hey, can you fix this? And then let them know that somebody will be in touch. Life, limb, eyesight, and safety and security are the big things to keep in mind when it comes to response time, in Virginia, specifically speaking. But as long as you do those things and as long as you're a good landlord, not with a property management company, because a property management company will honestly answer almost 95% of the maintenance requests within an hour, you'll be okay when it comes to
Okay.
This next question is from John Dow. This is for Nhan, actually. He asks, how do you float the idea to a homeowner about carrying a seller carry loan, and how do you explain the benefits for them?
Okay, well, this is covered in great detail at our academy, but basically, it's a tax implication, right? How much can you take this year versus next year, and how much does that increase your capital gains in your tax bracket? So if you're in a situation where you're in a particular tax bracket and you want to avoid the higher tax bracket, you may want to go ahead and get the capital gains for a portion of it for 1 year, for example, 80% of it, and then another 25% maybe the following year. So that way not everything comes in on the same year. So that's the biggest selling point for most people on why they would do that. The other reason, of course, is that now if they don't need that money anytime soon, they can invest it back into their own property and collect an interest on that loan. All right, now they're going to get an interest rate that's much higher than if they had put it in their savings account or any kind of certificate of deposit. So that's the other upside, as well as the interest they're going to make on their money, plus the tax liability being split up between multiple years. Okay.
One more question. All right, this is from Jamal Jackson. This is for you, Nhan.
Okay.
He says, I heard you mention earlier that sellers are more motivated knowing that you have vast access to cash and can potentially purchase a home without doing an inspection. What are some tactics you rely on to ensure that it's a wise decision before purchasing a home without a home inspection?
Perfect. Absolutely. We do purchase a home without any inspection, but we do have a 5-day clause that allows us to inspect the property and also void the contract for any reason if we feel the numbers don't work out. And that time frame, if the renovation is going to cost more than we expected, that we estimated, when a contractor goes out after the contract's ratified, that we could potentially in that 5-day period renegotiate the price based on our findings, or we can void the contract with no penalty. But regardless, though, generally when we write an offer, the rule of thumb, when you write an offer on the, traditionally from a real estate agent, they will want you to put down 1% of the purchase price as deposit. We don't give 1%. So in the case of if you have a house that you're buying for $100,000, you generally will put down 1% or $1,000 deposit. We don't do that. We generally give $10 or $20 or $100, something much less than 1%. And that's the only amount that we're risking. So in the event that things don't work out and we pass the 5-day period, and we cannot renegotiate, and it's already past the 5-day contingency period, then all we do is lose our $10 or $50 or whatever, right? So we don't really lose much at all because of the way we structure our contract. Now, we actually give access to those different kinds of tips and analysis and how to negotiate those things through our academy, okay? So there's a lot of different details there and templates, and you can get access to as a student, okay? So you always got to have a walk away just in case things don't work out. I mean, if a tree falls on it, you got to be able to walk away. If the house burns down, you got to be able to walk away. So there are different things inside a contract that allows you to do that if that happens. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Nhan. It looks like that's all the questions that we have, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to you.
Okay, perfect. Well, next part, guys, one of my favorite parts is the raffle. We're actually going to do a Wheel of Fortune to be able to give away a free 30-minute mentoring session, and this usually costs and a value that hundreds of dollars, not even thousands of dollars, depending on the mentor that you're working with. And for us, generally we charge thousands of dollars per month to mentor folks here locally in the DMV area. So we're going to give away 30 minutes for free, which will help you get started in your business. Any question you may have about real estate, and no matter what stage you're in, whether it be at the beginner, intermediate, or you're already advanced, where we can start doing deals together, doesn't matter where your situation is, we can help you in that 30-minute session. So let's go ahead and turn it over to Ari for go ahead and be able to do this, what we call the Wheel of Fortune Homes. Ari, I turn it over to you. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you guys again so much for coming on Click Meeting, and also the Facebook viewers that we have out there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So here we're going to do Wheel of Fortune Homes. I know that's kind of cheesy, but we couldn't really be more creative, and that was catchy. So good luck to our lucky winners. All right, I think our lucky winner for tonight is Miss Angela Payne. Is she here? Yes, I see her. Angela, I will be contacting you via email, and I will be sending you a schedule so you get a chance to meet with Nhan for 30 minutes via Zoom. Thank you and congratulations.
All right, fantastic. Ari, thank you very much. Congratulations to Angela and Mr. John Dow, I apologize. You missed it again, but we'll be rooting for you next time, okay? I know that was a very close one last time, and Nicholas actually remembers, and I remember it too. Okay, so we can go back to our presentation slide real quick, so we can go ahead and go through the next portion here. Next week on September 16th at 7 p.m., we're going to have another free webinar to talk about how to flip houses and earn anywhere between $50,000 to $250,000 per deal, okay? And you can go ahead and RSVP for this site on this website with the call to action that you see, click here on top, and you can RSVP for that event for next week. So that way you can learn how to fix and flip. And we're going to go through a lot of different examples, case studies, and showing you exactly what our system does to be able to get you to that, to those kinds of deals out there, okay? And as we move on, guys, we also have a Facebook page at facebook.com/fortunehomesteam. We're live streaming on Facebook right now, so those who are watching on Facebook, thank you very much for your participation. And definitely, if you have not liked our page yet, be sure to like our page, because we do post free content on a very regular basis, so that way you guys can engage the rest of the group. If you have a deal, you have looking for a contractor, looking for someone in your, to build your network, feel free to comment or message on our Facebook page, and someone out there potentially help you. Looking for a contractor, looking for a property manager, looking for a stager, looking for an agent, looking for whatever, okay? Message us out there on Facebook, like our page, follow us, and that way we can help you as a group to grow your real estate business. Next month, guys, we are going to be having another virtual meeting for Fortune Homes here on Wednesday, October the 14th at 7 p.m. The topic is going to be how to beat the bank. So if you have access to capital, or you have capital in a savings account, or maybe home equity, or 401k, or whatever, we will show you how you can invest that capital in other deals in different facets, whether it be a fix and flip, whether it be a land development, condo conversion, or whether it be a multifamily long-term deal where you get cash flow, whatever it may be. We're going to show you exactly how that all works and put your money to use, and not just collect 0.5% in the checking account or have it in a retirement account where it goes up and down at the mercy of the stock market, which you don't have any control. The great thing about real estate is that real estate can be controlled if you have the right investor doing that deal. There is a reason why banks do not loan money to people who want to use that money to buy stocks, but there is a reason, all right, why they will loan you money for a mortgage to buy real estate. See, banks understand something, and we as regular average people should as well. If the banks are willing to loan you money for real estate, you should too. If they're not willing to loan you money for stocks, why is everyone so excited about the stock where they have no control over it? Unless you're on the board of directors, or unless you're an officer of the company, at which point you may risk yourself of getting convicted of insider trading if you're going to do some transactions based on what you know inside the actual company. Okay, in real estate, there is no law about insider trading. You get what you get, and and that's why we can negotiate great deals, and there is no law against negotiating great deals in real estate. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you again for those who are watching on Facebook and those on Click Meeting. We hope this information was helpful, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week at our next event coming up. Thank you very much.